All right, so we're gonna get these tires swapped out here on the stand. Actually, before we get too far away, what I want to do is I've got a couple of stickers here we need to add to the toolbox. All right, so what have we got? Let's check out where we're at today here. So we have a little bit of space here. Got a little space there, and I've got some room down in here still. I'm trying to avoid going up here yet. I will eventually get up on here when I'm running out of space, but for now, I've got two stickers here from Tony at Blue Collar Backcountry, does cycling YouTube videos. So this one could fit here. That would be kind of cool. There we go. Nice. Okay, that's where we're at today here. That's what we've got. So the tire I'm going to be swapping on here for today is this Soma Cazadero tire. When I first bought this tire, it came with a set, and then the rear tire wore out at the time, so then I replaced it with this new front tire, and then I moved the front tire to the rear. So this is the original, this was the front tire of this original set of René tires that I have since worn out now. So now I've got a fairly newer tire on the front. So what I want to do is put this front tire on the back and then get another tire on the front for today's ride. But for the very first time, I've actually worn completely through the tread on this rear tire, and the threading of the carcass is starting to come through. fact, I'll go ahead and pop this off. Should have some levers in here. Over the weekend, I ran into a good friend of mine who we were both out cycling. We crossed paths and we stopped and had a conversation on the side of the road. And one of the conversation topics we discussed is, why do I make YouTube videos? And I was struggling to give him an answer. Why do I make cycling videos? So at the end of the conversation, I realized that I don't actually have a reason for making cycling videos. I just make cycling videos because it's fun. So that is the point of my channel, is that there is no point. So with that, today we're doing a vlog and let's get going. So first thing I gotta do is my bicycle. I ran into some problems over the weekend. Let me show you that. We're gonna fix that and then we're gonna maybe do a little short bike ride today. So it's kind of a little bit of a short valve stem for this tube. Okay, what we'll do here, just like Omar taught us back a while ago, start at the bottom, work our way up to the valve. This technique works pretty good, I gotta say. I mean, there's no tire I haven't been able to get on by doing this. No tight tires, nothing that's, you know, if you just do what he said, just work it up to the top, it just goes right on. Every time, every time. Of course, this is a used tire, so it's stretched out now. Of course, I don't have a pump out here, so we'll do that later. And I do try to follow the rule on the label. I do try to follow that, put that logo centered on the valve core. I do try to do that because if you do get a flat tire and you are struggling to figure out what caused it, it can help you identify a flat tire based on we'll be using these. Go ahead and swap out this one. I think this one's been in here for a while, so I might want to use this one. Ooh, that's a big one. Before I do that, let's look at this tube. This one big too? Yeah, it looks the same. So, this one feels lighter. All right, I'm gonna use this specialized tube. Does it really feel lighter? No. Yeah, a little bit, actually. Wow, these are huge. Up to 2.4. Dang, these are massive. There we are. Start from the bottom. Work your way up. And this one's loose. That one was no trouble at all. Okay, now this side goes on to, where is it? This is a 50 millimeter Soma Cazadero tire. The previous tire was a 48. This has a little bit of tread to it. These are really durable tires. If you're looking for a nice touring, I would say this is a good touring tire. I would say it's a decent kind of mixed terrain tire. It's got a center tread. It's very durable. It's got a thin sidewall, like a lot of the newer Panda Racer tires that are marketed as being a little less rolling resistance. So that's that. Put this back in. In my kit here, what I usually carry on every ride is I have my, my inner tube. I carry a wolf tooth. This is a chain breaker, and it has built in some quick links here. These are, I believe, all 10-speed quick links. I'm running a 10-speed chain on this bike. So 10-speed quick links, and Miss Cools is running a 10-speed chain. So we both have, when we ride together, I've got us covered for that. The multi-tool, which has a chain breaker. This is a quick link opening tool, and I've got a chain breaker in here on this multi-tool. It comes with a tire lever as well, and then I also carry the Presta to Schrader adapter. If you're ever out, get a flat tire and you can't get air for some reason, you can get it at a gas station. Patches, a patch kit, and tire lever. As for my pump, it's on the frame down here. I run this pump here. This is a Lezyne. It's called it's got the ABS flex hose. This is a Lezyne pump. I modified it to work on the mounts that are custom brazed onto this frame. So this is the flexible hose type. I like these because less risk of breaking that when you're pumping, less risk of breaking the valve off of the tube, which I've never done before, but there's a lot less risk with these. And you can set the wheel up and you can just kind of hold the pump with your hand. You don't have to hold the wheel and the pump at the same time, which you do on the other type, which isn't a problem, but it's just this is just a little more comfortable. And these are very, very lightweight. And what I did is I modified it. If you unthread this here, this is how you modify it. Go to your hardware store. So you unthread this piece here. There will be an O-ring in here, which I took out. You don't actually need it because there's 2 O-rings down here. Inside the pump is the spring. And I purchased this spring at the hardware store. You can get different lengths and different stiffnesses. I got one that was pretty light. I wanted it to be light as possible with just enough spring to be able to mount it onto the pump peg. You don't need a lot of spring tension to keep it in there. You just need a little bit, and you don't want it to be too long or hard, because when you're pumping now, you're pressing against that spring at the bottom of the pump stroke. So it doesn't have to be anything crazy, just enough. Just always, when it comes to bicycles, think more instead of I want more or this or that, or always going to the extreme. Think more in terms of just enough. I really feel like that has made my cycling experience a lot better by changing the philosophy from more is better, less is better, a lot less is better. No, just enough. You want just enough. You always want just enough, just what you need. No more, no less. Same with cycling, like on a bike ride. Always finish a ride feeling like you could do a little bit more. That was a quote from, I think, Greg LeMond, or I don't know, George Hincapie. One of those guys said, finish every ride as if you could. Maybe it was Eddie Merckx, I don't know. One of the famous cyclists said that. And I think that's actually it's a very basic rule of thumb, but I do think it's a quick one to think about when you're out. Have I done enough today? Well, could you do more? Yes. So maybe if you're done, you're done. And you can do more if you want, but it's good to finish with a little left over. Okay. We're going to air up these tires, and then we're going to start the rotation, the pedal rotation. So let's do it. One thing I've noticed with these tires is you really have to, you do have to pump them up pretty hard to get the full bead to seat all the way around. There it goes. And once it's seated, then you can let the pressure out and set it to your desired pressure, which for me is going to be around 30. I think I'll go 30 on the front to start. So that's 30. It's a good starting point. It's a little firm, actually, but you can always let a little air out when you're out riding, so. So I've had the Fitz Rando 650B bike over there for just a little over, I guess a little over 2 years now. And I was looking at Strava the other day to see approximately how many miles I've put on it. And I have over 22,000 miles now. And like I said, I had to swap out the tire this morning, so I'm not totally sure how many miles are on that tire on the back that finally wore out. But yeah, it's been a really good bike, actually, and there's not a whole lot I would change about it. The low trail fork has always been something that I've had to learn to get used to, and the really flexible tubing. But aside from that, the bike fit feels very good. I've been adjusting the saddle fore and aft over the last few weeks, or month actually now, kind of trying different saddle setbacks to see how that changes how I feel on the bike. But other than that, yeah, there's really not a lot I would change. I might, although as I sit here and look at it from this angle, I was going to say I would possibly change the geometry a little bit, but I really think we got this one just about perfect. I like the level top tube. There is a little bit more seat post exposed on this bike than you might see on a traditional French randonneuring bike, and as a result I've had to run the stem just a little bit taller. You know, I could run it lower and have a little more handlebar to saddle drop, but I feel like this here is a really comfortable position for a couple of reasons. As you can see, the handlebars have a fairly deep drop and a very long ramp. So if I were to go back to maybe a more kind of modern handlebar with a shorter ramp and a shorter, shallower drop, then I would probably change the geometry of this bike a little bit. I'd probably stretch it out a little more. This top tube's only 56.5 centimeters, and my other road bike is a 57.5, and my new Fitz gravel is also a 57.5. So I'd probably stretch this bike out, maybe go 58 top tube and a 59 seat tube. That is if I were to change the handlebars, but I do like these bars, and I like the deep drop because it's such a different position than what you would get on a shallower drop. It's a much more noticeable difference. So what you can do with that is it allows you to basically have a higher handlebar and then have that deep drop, so if you do need to get down low, you can. But if you want to just sit upright more, you have the bars up and you have the ramps not so far down from the saddle, so you're not in an extreme position. It's really good for, I would say, long distance cycling, to be comfortable, for bike touring, that sort of thing. But it is all personal preference. I found that moving the saddle back a little bit actually made the bike feel just a lot better. It handles better, and even though the reach is longer, because my weight is further back, my center of mass is further back, it takes some weight off the hand, so I'm able to go ahead and reach a little bit further, and it seems pretty comfortable. So I'm going to keep it where it is now, with the saddle pushed back just a tiny bit from where my bike fitter had first suggested to me back in 2012 when I got a professional bike fitting done, or 2011. Oh yeah, no, it was actually before that. No, sorry, it was back before that. It was 2010 actually. Yeah, it was 2010 when I got a professional bike fitting, and at that time I was doing mostly road riding, and he put my position very forward and up, which is really common. You see that on a lot of road cycling bike fits, is that they tend to put the saddle forward and up, and as far as you can. And in this case, I feel like that position put a lot more weight on my hands, and it just felt like you were constantly sliding forward. So moving it back actually distributed my weight back a little bit, which allowed me to kind of lean forward and relax my arms on the bars, and I feel a lot more comfortable now. So we're talking centimeters here. We're not talking big differences, but I did move the saddle back about a full centimeter from where it was, and I lowered it a little bit as well to compensate for the extra pedal extension, and so far it's been pretty good, so I'll keep it there. I'm going to keep it here for now. But other than that, it's been a great bike. I love the way it looks, and really, actually, those Soma Cazaderos roll pretty good with the low trail. It's got that extra grip in the tire, which helps to slow the steering down a little bit. So maybe there's something to that. If you're going with a knobbier tire, a wide knobby tire, and you want to run low pressure on the road and you got a lot of traction, you know, maybe lower that trail a little, and that will help compensate for often what feels like very slow steering or kind of sticky steering. Maybe is a better way to say it. Who knows? All right, there's maybe one thing I might actually change on this. So here in the front, the center poles, you can kind of see there's a slot in them, and the slot allows the pad to go up or down. It also tilts, which allows you to tilt the pad if you need to. Ideally, when the pad makes contact with the rim, it'll be parallel or perfectly. The pad will be parallel with the rim, braking surface, or the axis where it mounts here will be exactly perpendicular. Either way, the idea is that it's making contact with the rim nice and square. So what I would actually consider doing is we optimize, or I hate to use the word optimized, but John set the brazons here to maximize the clearance so that we could fit fenders and 48mm tires. Going back, I would probably be okay with lowering these down a few millimeters so that the pads are in the center of the slot when they make contact with the braking surface. You can see it a little bit more exaggerated on the rear brake. The rear is much more pronounced. This one is all the way down in the bottom of the slot in order to get more clearance. So I would be willing to give up a little bit of clearance to move these pads so that they're a little bit higher up in the slots. I wouldn't do it so that they were all the way in the slot, the top. I've actually have that now. I did that on my other bike, where on the front we have the pads set so that they're all the way to the top, and actually find that braking is a little bit too responsive. it's just more like, feels more like disc brakes, where it's got more of a sudden grab to it, and I don't really like that feeling. I like to have the brake pressure when the pad touches the rim to not actually be real grabby. It just kind of smoothly wipes the rim first, then you keep continuously applying pressure until you get what kind of, you know, braking you want. It's a much more finesse to braking, and that's how I like to do it. So anyway, I just thought about that, and I thought maybe some of you out there who may be considering going to a rim brake center pull like this, whether or not you want to consider clearance for fenders and tires, but then also think about what kind of braking performance you want. If you want really good modulation, you would go with the pads lower in the slot, and if you want really quick responsive braking, you would want the pads to be higher up in the slot. So just thought I would mention that in case some of you are contemplating the difference in what those trade-offs might be, and you will give up some fender tire clearance in order to do certain things with your brakes. So yeah.